I just don't think, there we go. There we go.
Wow, all right. So to summarize what Jenny said for Westborough TV, since they probably couldn't hear anything, this is the building behind Pizzeria Uno where Red Heat Tavern is, that long building, one of the suites in there. And it's a dog training facility, no daycare. We actually approved this last year at a different location, and it's essentially the same plan. So do you have comments, Suzette, anything?
There's nothing new to add. So it would be, the operation would be the same. It's actually 11 to 8, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, Saturday, Sunday.
I'm sorry, I just need you to introduce yourself.
Oh, sorry. Suzette Spitzer.
Okay, I know we did this last year, but you still have to do it again, so. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then to address the waste comment, so the strip of grass is actually directly adjacent to the end cap that I'm on. So it's not even a walkway for other folks, really.
Right.
And there would be a waste station out there.
Right, so they would have bags to pick it up anyway. Okay, and trash receptacles to throw it in?
Yep, trash receptacle for it as well, yep.
Questions from the board?
I just remember last year we talked about just the waste, and I think that was a major issue, and I can't think of anything else at this point.
I'm just curious on how many dogs, I mean, how large are your classes?
So the facility is larger than what I need for one gym, and my initial build-out is going to be centered on one gym, and the one gym is 1,600 square feet, which would allow for 8 dogs at a time. Then there is a smaller space that I'll retain in the back that business goes while I'll build out further, and that would essentially be more for like private training or like 2 to 4 dogs in a smaller session.
Anything else? Okay, it's a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public? Jenny, what's our next step on this? I think we can probably close this.
You can close the hearing and deliberate and then take a vote. I did include in the memo the conditions from the last special permit, and if the board decides to approve this, we can also add a condition about the waste area that will be,
We don't have a draft decision, though?
no, not at this time.
Okay.
I
You
know
think we can move-
procedurally
You
you
think we
have,
can move forward with just the conditions that you, or do you want to review a draft at the next meeting?
so it's up to the board. I can draft something, send it out to the board for review. The draft would reflect everything that you've talked about in the meeting, and that's in my memo, as long as you're okay with those conditions. And it will reflect essentially the same decision that was provided last time with a different location.
Can't we just use the last one?
Can't we just use the motion she's written for us here and just add the conditions which are listed above?
It's up to us whether we want to see the draft decision.
My feeling is that in this situation, we could take the recommended motion and with the list of conditions that is listed above this on the 3rd page of her memo, and do it that way and just add one as far as the waste goes. And I think that would be sufficient in this situation than holding them up any further on it.
Okay. So it's a public hearing, so we would, if there's no further discussion, we have to close the public hearing and then take action on
Right.
the decision.
You have to close the public hearing first.
Well, we have to close it at some point.
You have to close it first and then do the motion, or you don't have to? Oh.
You can close it at the very end if you want to, but I don't see why we would need to.
You're breaking with tradition, Chuck.
Sorry.
Traditionally, you would close the hearing and
I don't
then
know what to do with-
deliberate and then
I
vote.
don't know what to do with myself with these radical ideas.
Yeah. John's trying to modernize you all.
All right, so if anybody wants to motion on this, as far as the public hearing goes,
I move that we close the public hearing on the special permit for Zoom located at 225-227 Turnpike Road, Suite D, Westborough, Massachusetts.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's 5-0 in favor of closing the public hearing. So the choice now would be to continue it and review a draft decision, or just act on the decision based on the conditions that were in our memo. And
And I'll still send out the draft decision to you all to review, but it would reflect what you agree upon right now.
and you're going to add a
And you still
condition,
have to sign it.
and you're going to add a condition about the waste area.
Yes.
Do you care to motion this?
Yeah, I move that the planning board approve the special permit pursuant to the rules and regulations relative to special permits under section 5.1, attachment 1- use regulation table of the zoning bylaws of the town of Westborough, subject to the following conditions. 1, dogs and their owners shall enter through the building's front entrance only. There should be no animal access from the rear of the building. The applicant should provide one or more trash receptacles designated for animal waste along the area in front of the building near the entrance to the dog training facility. Activities associated with training classes, walking or exercising of dogs exterior to the building should be prohibited. Any signage associated with the new use shall conform to the requirements of the Westborough zoning law. The applicant shall install appropriate building materials to soundproof the common walls. Are there any common walls in this? I think there are not, are there? Are there common walls?
Well, it's interesting, there is a common wall, but it's to a jujitsu business.
Okay, still though. And common walls shared with adjoining commercial uses to reduce animal sounds from infiltrating adjoining commercial spaces. And prior to the final, I think we ought to insert a new 6 on the waste containers, which I think we got. Jenny, perhaps you can just draft something that we got from the engineering department on that, about where they should be. And finally, number 7 would be prior to the final certificate of occupancy, all plans approved through the special permit process with all comments from all town departments shall be verified through as-built plans. These as-built plans should be approved through the building department or other appropriate departments to verify conformance with approved plans and permits. The building commissioner may withhold occupancy should any of these items be found deficient.
Suzette, you've had a chance to look at these? And do we add a condition on the waste area? Or is that
Yeah.
part of the motion?
No, that was the one that I said, Jenny.
Do we need that in the motion?
It's on the screen.
Okay. Do we need to add that to the motion, or?
Hazel mentioned it.
Okay,
the
she did, I'm
waste-
sorry.
Yeah, the waste
Okay.
container.
All right, so we have a motion.
Second.
I think Pete got the second in. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's 5-0 in favor. Thanks for coming in, Suzette.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So last time I had to come back for the next meeting. This time I'm done this
You're
time.
done.
So much.
Yeah. So as far as the soundproofing, I know it's a jujitsu room now, but you don't know what it might be in the future. So if you could just put something in there to, I know, and I also read your comments on these you don't allow the dogs that bark there in group classes, but, you know, I'm sure there's going to be barking dogs, so,
Some of the dogs will bark, yes.
yeah.
Sure.
I know my dog would, so.
Thank you very much. Have a great
Maybe
evening.
she'd like to take my talk.
All right, so I still don't see, Shammy, go ahead.
Mark Farouk is on his way, so is it possible to?
Sure, we can take up other business until, yeah, okay. I guess that would be the approval of the tri-party agreement and performance bond for the Ridings 2. Can we discuss this without the applicant, Jenny?
Yes. And actually, the applicant came in and he did sign the agreement. It still needs to be signed by the planning board to be complete, and we also need to receive the performance bond from him, but if the planning board decides tonight that they agree to the tri-party agreement, then we can go ahead and accept the performance bond from the developer. So engineering did provide the completion bond amount in the amount of $832,639.10. And they also provided a breakdown on an attached spreadsheet, which was distributed to the board. And then the tri-party agreement was drafted and sent to our town council and to the developer's attorney, and they are in agreement. I'm not sure if the board had reviewed this before. It sounded like maybe the developer had been discussing this previously with my predecessor, and initially it had included the lot releases, but we have removed those. So
Right.
this does not include any lot releases.
All right, so questions from the board? All right, so I have a question though, Jenny. Weren't they revising the open space there to include some of the drainage areas that we want, that the town wants?
Yes, so the applicant will be coming to the November 14th planning board meeting with an A&R. Essentially what was decided was that the back area where the slopes are will become a separate lot that's non-buildable, and that will be under the purview of the homeowners association to take care of any drainage and to have the slopes under their control, so the town would not be liable.
Okay, so the tripartite agreement doesn't reference that at all that I can see. Is that are we gonna be covered once that A&R is filed? I mean,
We will still be covered. There's other conditions. So this is in regards to the completion of the actual subdivision.
okay,
You know,
I'm just
there-
checking on that.
Yeah, there's still items that need to be completed, such as the trail through the open space, and that's currently being worked on as well.
And once this is filed, the open space deed will be recorded as well, or?
Yes, conservation is working on that right now with the developer. So that is a separate item.
Steve, we're just talking about you. Do you want to come up and introduce yourself for the record? Yes, thank you. Sure. We were just talking about the tripartite.
Okay, Steve Benincasa, Shrewsbury.
Yeah, I think we've asked our questions. Jenny, does the board have any other questions on it? Thanks for coming in, Steve. I know you seemed like you rushed over here, so.
Yeah.
Do we want to make a motion on this?
I'm sorry, I don't think we included a motion on this. So it's basically just a motion to approve the tri-party agreement as drafted.
Do we need to say anything in the motion about the bond?
Yes, you can say in the amount of $832,639.10. I put it up on the screen.
Oh, I see, okay. All right, I move that we approve the tripartite agreement and release of planning board covenant between Writings 3 and who are the other signatures? I don't have the other signature page.
The page.
Here you go.
And just to be clear, this isn't for the release of the covenants. This is only for the
All right, so
tri-party
the only
agreement.
signature on this is Writings 3?
Writings 2
2, I'm sorry.
is the name of the subdivision.
Okay.
Well, and the planning board has to.
And the planning board, yeah, okay. Agreement between Writings 2 and the planning board, members of the planning board, and the amount pursuant also to the amount of the completion bond of $832,639.10, with a copy of the spreadsheet. Upon deposit, I assume you're not deposited the money yet?
No. He needs to provide the performance bond.
Right.
Once the planning board approves this.
Right. conditioned upon the deposit of the completion bond.
I second that motion.
I'm not sure I got that motion, but does that sound acceptable? We might need to read it back so I understand.
So just to confirm, it's a motion to approve the tri-party agreement for the completion bond in the amount of $832,639.10 between Steve Benincasa and the Westborough Planning Board.
Okay, that sounds like exactly what you said.
Yeah, except I think, shouldn't we say also conditioned upon the deposit of such amount?
Yes, the agreement will be complete pending on the receipt of that performance bond.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, that's 5-0. You're all set, Steve.
Okay.
You have questions for the board?
So I believe you have that final tri-party that I had signed. I need to bring that back to the bank.
Yeah, we can circulate that and get it signed now.
Should I get it, take it tonight, or may I come back again tomorrow or next week?
We can sign that now, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
You want-
Kristen, do you have the copy of it?
No,
It's
Hazel's got the
well,
copy.
the problem is that it doesn't, oh, does it have the planning board on it?
It does, on the
It
prior.
does, okay.
All right, while we're circulating that, we'll bring up our next agenda item and get that started.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Stephen, you can get that from Kristen at the,
Copy of that before I release it?
Yes. Absolutely.
I can run and make a copy.
Okay.
okay. Next item on the agenda is Village Commons. Okay. I don't know whose pen that is. All right.
Right, yeah. Take it back.
All right, we have a presentation first and then an update on progress, or how do you want to do this, Jenny?
We can do the presentation first.
Okay. This is a continuation of the public hearing to modify the commercial component at Village Commons. And we have some, I'm sorry, I forgot her name, so she'll have to introduce herself.
A few minutes? Okay. It sounds like she needs a few minutes to set up, so I can go ahead and provide an update to the board if
Great.
you would like. Okay. So I visited the site yesterday on October 16th, and I had sent the board a link to some pictures and just a summary from the developer on what's been done. So there has been substantial progress. The curbing has been installed for the sidewalk along Dania Drive, and the retail building has the trim on it. The dumpster enclosure was installed except for the gates, which might have already been installed since yesterday. I'm not sure.
When I went by this afternoon.
Okay. But those are supposed to be installed this week. And the paving company has relayed that the paving will be done this coming week, so I assume that means next week. And the engineering department, Steve Bakari met with the developer's engineer, Mike Scott, and they discussed that the engineer will submit an engineered solution to the engineering department once he's witnessed a rainstorm to see how it's handling the water flow. And I did request that the developer have that submitted by November 1st to us. I would assume that it'd rain by that time with the track that we've been going on.
This weekend, it's supposed to rain again.
Oh, okay. Then that should be a good opportunity to see that. The equipment and debris was cleaned up except for a piece of equipment that's being used to level the area where the sidewalk is going, and preparing it for loam and seed. So there has been some substantial progress made.
Any questions from the board on this?
No?
Did all the items check the box from the last meeting?
Well, no, not completely, but I think, I think the point I made last meeting is that our next meeting is November 14th, and if everything that was supposed to be done by November 1st isn't done, then we can certainly discuss enforcement, recommending
Yeah.
enforcement if you want, but I think at this point, let's wait till the 14th and see where we're at. That's my opinion.
Yeah, he has a month to finish off the list.
It's had a lot more than a month.
Yes, but I can only control things right now.
Right.
All right.
And just,
Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, is Zara Drive, has the paving been completed on Zara Drive? Has the paving been completed on Zara Drive yet?
We're just waiting for the paving company to come out and do it.
Farouk, just name and,
Name what? Sorry.
Identify yourself
Farouk
for the
Ansari, representing both Zara Gardens and Village Commons. To answer your question, I've been after the paving company, like crazy, and they promised me next week they're going to take care of both the projects, Zara Drive and Village Commons.
Okay.
That's what they said to
All
me,
right.
so I'm just representing what they told me, so. I have prepared the entire roadway for the paving, that's all that's left. Structures are raised, even swept. So, I'm at their mercy right now.
okay, well, we don't have enforcement authority over Zara Gardens, but you understand that you've missed the opportunity to get that approved, accepted by the town at this town meeting, so you're going to have to maintain that road throughout the winter, plow it, sand it.
I know.
Okay. I know we had complaints from those residents in the past, so hopefully that doesn't happen again. Maybe we'll get lucky with another winter like last winter, but regardless, let's get back to Village Commons. Do you have any comments on the updates that Jenny gave us, or?
I think I've been very meticulous in giving her the updates, plus I ran into her at the job site, so she was able to see what the progress we have made. Actually, we have done a few other things that are not necessarily under your jurisdiction, I guess. It's more DRB. All the lights have been installed on the pathway, those little dinky things, pathway lights. And the outside big pole lights have also been, they're there on site, and by the end of this week, they said they'll be working.
Just to clarify, DRB is a subcommittee of the planning board, so anything they recommended is under our jurisdiction and part of any enforcement action that we recommend.
Well, we
So-
met, Mark, we met with them this morning to discuss, the lights and various things which are under the purview of the.
Sure. And
It's been done, so.
And he has so far moved in the direction he's supposed to be
Okay,
moving.
and do you have a meeting scheduled on the architectural plans?
We have someone there this morning. We had discussions with the architect, and I think the thing we most were concerned about was the fact that the proposed building, was really not in character with the rest of the buildings that are in that particular area. So we suggested, gave him some ideas on how he might change the design of the building. I think the main concern was the flat roof, which really didn't fit in at all. And also suggested perhaps he go up and look at the Pulte development. Because if you go and look at this development, you'll see that everything in Westborough Village plus Village Commons all has a peaked roof to it. So they're going to go back. The architect was there. They're going to come back to us, I guess, the beginning of November with some altered plans to see if they can come up with something that is really more in character with the rest of the buildings in that area. So we had a very good discussion with them this morning.
Okay. Comments?
Through the chairman, we understood your request about extending the sidewalks all the way to Gleason. I've already done it. And, just, I think I mentioned that to Hazel too. It's not paved yet, but it's already all prepared all the way to Gleason, or whatever that street is, Fisher or Gleason.
And he's going to add additional lights from the original plans that we had so that it will go all the way down to Gleason Street. In other words, the lighting stopped in front of the mailbox, actually. And so he's going to add a couple more lights to make sure that there are lights that are going to go all the way down to Gleason Street. So I think we've worked the design aspects out. And also some of the landscape planting, we also clarified with him. So I think we're in good shape at this particular time.
Yeah. She had suggested to get a couple of extra lights so that it's all, similar looking. So it's on the job site, although they will not be installed for a little while, but I have it so that if they ever change the model or something like that, they won't look like two different styles, so.
Any other questions? All right, so let's move to the presentation then.
I'm Saloni Chedda from WDA Design Group for the commercial phase modification. So we received town comments on the plans that we submitted from various departments, and we shared a letter for the town comments this morning. So I have that letter here, and I can go over the comments. First, going over the comments by fire department, they had requested to see, requested access throughout the site. So we shared here a chain link fence plan with locking gates fitted with lock or Knox box as per the fire department's preference, and I can show the plan here. So this is the plan showing in red a chain link fence circling around the construction site with gates entering here from the west along Gleason Street for the construction entrance, and also here on the internal road with 2 gates.
I thought we wanted a fence with screening.
Yeah, at least something, some kind of, I don't know if it's plastic that they put on those, but, so not just chain link, but they have that mesh material that they put on the fencing?
Yes, we can add that. We can add that to the detail. Okay.
Only on one side. You don't need it on the straight side, right? The mesh, so.
If you're gonna do it, you might as well just go around and do the whole thing. I think the neighbors would appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay. Moving to their next question, they suggested all roads be at least 20 feet wide. So that's the measure. That's the width of all the roads proposed. That they are already existing. They're all 20 feet wide. Third point, the fire department requested a swept path analysis for this site. However, the site entrance areas, roads, and curbs have already been installed as per the approved plans from 2014. And no change to the fire access route is planned within these modifications. So we would like you to suggest, if this is required to be done, or what the next steps for this one are.
You want us to respond to that now? Okay.
No,
Can we check with the fire department on that, Jenny?
absolutely.
And see what their comments are, if they're going to require a new one. I'm going to probably defer to them on that. I don't know about the rest of the board.
Weren't we talking about changing the circulation around the parking area?
I don't think we were.
And we were, no, weren't we saying,
I can pull the plan,
yeah, pull the
so,
plan up, please?
so this is the proposed parking layout with the roads. And we're,
Yeah, didn't the fire department say that they were concerned about the access of the trucks to make that turn around the dumpster area, that it might be too tight?
Well, let's go, I mean, if they need a new swept path analysis, we'll defer to them on that. You know, I know
All right.
that change some of the sideways parking to parallel. That probably would help with the fire truck access on the north, but I see your point about the,
Either way, having a paper trail showing that the design is acceptable to the fire department, I think is probably good practice.
all right.
I believe what was asked for at the last meeting was, showing the turning radiuses for the fire trucks.
Okay. Okay, we can get that. So, next point 4, they asked about where the existing fire hydrants are located and whether they are painted red. So we checked on site the fire hydrants. We've located the fire hydrants on this exhibit. There's one next to the garage, and then one next to the existing commercial building. We're also proposing to move the fire hydrant further west to be closer to the proposed residential building within the 100 feet requirement of the sprinkler system. Next is the Active Transportation and Safety Committee. So they did mention that there might be a possibility of extending the bike trail as per the BWALT feasibility study. So we are okay if that is.
so that would be an easement then, that would be shown on a plan at some point?
Yeah, we would like to know more details of what that would be,
Yeah,
what
I
the
think
bike trail would be.
I think Jenny and the town engineer can probably help with that.
Yeah, so. Next is the school department. So their question was how the children for the new residential building would be picked up. Would there be a new stop proposed along Gleason or Fisher Street? And then what we suggest is that this exhibit here shows the existing TOV stop along Fisher Street and the proposed walkways from the proposed building. All along here, there are walkways that are ADA compliant, 2 walkways and crosswalks to get to the existing TOV stop. So this should be able to suffice.
I think that's a decent walk to have just everyone from this building to go to the bus stop at Donny. I think you should try to split that up to 2 bus stops.
I don't think the school, they'll never do that. One will be sufficient.
All the way up. Where are they getting picked up currently?
Right at the end of the drive there, at Danica Drive.
Oh,
Where
all
it's
right,
right.
okay, so never mind.
Yeah,
I apologize.
okay. Yeah.
That's
'Cause that should be sufficient, and I think if there's I think it's going to be helpful if there's a walkway running. There are actually 2 access points for that one running down between the buildings there, and then one, so the kids have a choice of walking down there and then going on the sidewalk, or going through the development and then going down Danica Drive. So I think that's good to have 2 access points there.
Yeah, I'm confused what the reference to TOV is on that plan. But TOV references the zoning in the area, transit-oriented village. So I think the school department's comments are that they didn't want the kids having to walk over to Westborough Village, but they wanted to know where, so I think that would be school bus stop or some kind of other label, not TOV stop, because I don't really know that that's,
Where, does anybody know where the kids for Westborough Village, they picked up on Gleason, halfway up the hill there where you enter into Westborough Village? Is that where the school bus picks up all those kids?
I don't know.
Nobody knows.
Amber's, let me see,
I assume it's up at that entrance there.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if the school bus actually enters Westborough Village. The superintendent says they would need to walk over to an existing stop at Westborough Village. So I don't know if that implies there's only one stop at Westborough Village, but regardless, I think there would be, the school department would have to consider a separate stop here because
I
there's
think there
really
already
no-
is one.
There already is one. I've observed school
Okay.
children
Yeah.
being picked up and dropped off
Okay.
at this location.
Right. So I think there is one at the end of Danica Drive, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah.
There is one.
So there's one there, and then the Westborough Village ones, I think, are up the hill on Gleason Street at the entrance to Westborough Village.
I thought they were going to Westbrook. Okay. Yep.
Okay.
There'd be no reason for them to have to walk up to
Right,
Westborough
I thought they were
Village.
going all,
Yeah, yeah. No, there is already a school bus stop there.
All right, next.
So next is the police department did not have any comments. Conservation Commission did not have any comments. Then the building commissioner or community development director did a construction schedule with the start and completion dates. This will be provided with periodic reviews prior to the start of construction, and they also questioned the affordable units, so they will also be documented as part of the typical lottery process.
All right, my question on the affordable units is one of the problems we had with the preceding buildings was that the paperwork or the things that needed to be presented to the state on the affordable housing seemed to not get there in a timely manner. And I want to make sure that all applications and documentation that needs to go to the state gets there as early as possible so that we don't run into the same problems we did last time. I don't know what the procedure is myself, but I think it's something we need to keep track of and make sure that the appropriate paperwork is filed as soon as possible.
For the construction schedule, I thought we discussed also having a third-party project manager being hired for the process.
Well,
Is
the
that
last
something that we
sentence
would
there,
insert here?
Yeah, the last sentence on that, it says the contract information for a
Oh, it
qualified
did say that, sorry, yeah. Is
project manager will be provided to the town prior to construction.
that something we approve, or how does that work?
I think Fred probably approves it.
Well, I think we can require a credentialed project
That's what I
manager
mean,
as a
yeah.
condition.
I know it says qualified, but I think,
Credentialed. I think
Credentialed
would be
is
the
really
word I
the
would use.
appropriate word.
Back to the affordable units, I think we need to put a threshold in as far as when, I don't want that building to be built, occupied, and then hold the lottery. My preference would be that the lottery is held prior to occupancy by any of the apartments. So I don't know how you feel about that, but.
I already have the mechanism in place to do that for the rentals and whatever, and they have done it, 2 of our projects, so.
Okay. Yeah, but at Zara Gardens, the lottery was done after everybody else moved in, and I'd say it was pretty much the same way here at Village Commons. So, I don't want that to happen here. So my recommendation would be that we don't grant an occupancy permit until that lottery has been completed.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, in this particular building, it's, you cannot separate it. It's all going to go up all at one time. So
Right, so it shouldn't be a problem then. to
this
have
should
that
not be a
condition.
problem, yes.
Right, okay.
Agreed.
Is there detail on which apartments are affordable? Sizes of them?
Brett has some discretion on that, but and DHCD will have to approve it, but it's going to be one of each.
Okay.
One of each unit type, so a 1-bedroom, a 2-bedroom, and a 3-bedroom.
Jenny, could you maybe educate us or find out, I mean, I quite frankly don't know exactly how this works and what the timing may or may not be on this. If you maybe could, I don't know, come up with it, or find out for us. I think that will allow us to keep track of when the lottery could be held, how long it's going to take. It's all those steps that I have no idea about. I mean, do you have to apply and then you can't have the lottery doesn't happen for 18 months? I mean, there's got to be some sort of time limits that I would like to be aware of, and perhaps we can pass on to.
Baruch has a response.
Can I answer her question?
Yeah.
Usually, the people that do that, the MCO people, the ones that do the lottery business, they would like no more than 6 months before the completion date. They will not do it a year and a half ahead of time. So once the building is framed and I'm starting to finish it, let them know, and then they'll start the lottery. The process itself takes about 3 months
That's
to
right.
advertise it and, interview them and all that, So, I mean, I don't want to keep any apartments empty, so obviously it's to my advantage to get them filled out, so.
Okay, but if it takes 6 months.
Yeah, that's what they say, approximately
Okay.
6 months, total.
Yeah, so maybe, maybe a little before that, even notifying them.
yes.
Depending on your.
Yeah.
It should, actually, when you submit the construction schedule, maybe within that construction schedule, there'll be a notation that says submission for the lottery somewhere within that construction schedule, so that, we kind of keep track that actually got done within the appropriate amount of time. I don't know, I mean, it's probably not a normal thing you put in a construction schedule, but in this
No,
situation, it might be worthwhile.
I have seen that before, and Farouk is correct that typically, it's within about 6 months that they would hold the lottery if it's prior to a certificate of occupancy being issued. But there's also the approval process it has to go through with the deed rider approved and the specific language. So I could look into a condition that makes sure it references that timeline.
There is a lot of interaction with you, with those people,
Yes.
like it was with Jim Robbins before, so you would have to approve a lot of paperwork and all that, so.
Yes.
All right, any more questions? Because I have a couple, but we had an outstanding issue on parking spaces, I thought. Wasn't there a question from a resident about the original plan having?
I have an exhibit regarding that too. So
Okay,
I
could
can
you-
go ahead and present.
Could you clarify that for me?
Sure. So the question was, so I will,
I guess what my point is, this response was to department comments, but we had several resident comments that, I'd like to hear a formal response, either from you or from the applicant. One of those being the parking issue, and I think there was a request for a fence, that kind of thing.
we can get a formal response addressing all the comments, but right now.
If you want to just cover the parking thing tonight.
Sure,
And
yeah.
I don't know if you want to go through I think there were 3 other things that the residents had asked for. And, I just would like to have some type of formal response to that from the applicant. I don't know how, again, that's just me.
I think it would be good if, I don't even remember what the few items were, to be honest, so maybe we just go through it tonight, touch upon it.
Yeah, I'm just looking for that letter now. So if you want to discuss the parking while I find that.
Yeah, so going over the approved plans, the concern was visitor parking. So the residents are concerned that there is now less visitor parking than that was approved prior to this modification. So just here, I'm sharing the approved plan as it was approved in 2015, and just also zooming in on the zoning summary table. If you look at the two bottom items, they are showing parking for retail and parking for residential. So as per the zoning bylaws, 27 parking spaces are required for the commercial phase at that time, and for the residential, 30 parking spaces are required. And what was provided as per that plan are 38 parking spaces. So 30 parking spaces for the residents and 8 parking spaces for visitors. And those are located here on this exhibit. In red are highlighted all the parking spaces that belong to the residents. So these have been as built. There are 4 covered garages with 4 parking spaces each. And then there are additional residential units with a 1-car garage inside the unit and 1-car parking space in front of the residential unit. So this covers a total of 30 parking spaces for residents. And moving on, this exhibit here shows additional 8 parking spaces at the rear end of the property for visitor parking spaces. So this is exactly how this was built. And all the parking spaces in the front there are 45 parking spaces in the front that cater to the commercial space. So the requirement is 1 parking space per 200 square feet, and that comes up to 45, and that's what's been planned here. So that was the breakdown of the approved plan. Now currently, looking at the modification, we still have 45 parking spaces. All that we've done is we've been able to reorient those parking spaces so that the central garden area has more green space. So if we are to just compare what we are proposing for the central island green space, we have now 11 parking spaces along the edges, but as per the approved plan, we had 19 parking spaces along the edges. So we made an effort to reduce parking within the island, and that just impacted how many total parking spaces we can get into the site. So we now have, according to the proposed zoning table, So zooming in into what the proposed zoning table shows, we require 38 parking spaces for each dwelling unit, but we have only 31. So we have 7 less for the residential and 1 less for the commercial space. So we do have less parking, but we do have an overall increase in the green space, and that's been consolidated for central space for the use of all the residents. And also, there is also this concern that the total allowed sewage capacity for this new building and the commercial building is going to be 4,000 units, I believe. So really, the occupancy of the commercial space gets limited by this metric, and then the requirement of the retail space for parking spaces eventually gets limited again. If we have low occupancy, then we have low number of people visiting that space, retail space. So the possibility of what that retail space comes from that, and then the overlap between the retail parking and residential parking can be greater. So even though overall we have less parking spaces, we have enough for the residents.
So the existing residents have the same amount of guest parking that they did with the original approval?
Absolutely, they do.
Does,
That, yeah, that
That
answers
answers
that
that
for me.
question.
all right, I think the other three items may require, we had a request for a fence around the community, a request for a separate entrance for the old and new community, and a request that the planning board should allow residents to finish basements. I think your response to that one is that certainly not in your authority to tell the planning board what to do there, so. But, you know, if you have thoughts about a fence around or a separate entrance,
Definitely, considering the fence, we would suggest that since the central parking space is so important, like a large space for everybody to be able to use, it is suggested that a separation, a physical separation, is not really put in because we would want the children to come and use that central location for, mingle. And the idea behind having a village space is to have more community interaction, have a more lively space. So a physical barrier would not only divide the site into two parts, it would also restrict access. Even though there might be a gate that you can open, it just reduces the quality of space a little bit. So in terms of a design suggestion, it's not the best thing.
what about a fence along the property line with the abutter?
Which abutter are you talking about?
The north abutter, the commercial building,
So for the north abutter, there are
basically
existing.
parallel to that sidewalk.
I understand. So the this edge here was an easement that was agreed upon during the initial approval, where there is now a dense planting existing. The trees are quite tall, and I have observed them myself, and you cannot see across very well because they are big trees. They are really tall, 8 foot tall. So if this kind of
That doesn't
planting.
go all the way back.
No, it doesn't. I do think the plan calls for more plantings. I'm not sure if those are going in this fall or not, but I know when I was there, I got a really good look at the neighbor's bulldozers, so.
Right, for the rear portion of the site, that is the case, but I believe that the applicant has another plan that got reviewed with the design review board of
Yeah, I
adding
think
planting there.
that's design review, and I think they're looking at the fact that, that there was a discussion even here about having the plantings run all the way along that line, and so I know Farouk is aware of that, and he does have some ideas, and we talked about, I think, putting an arborvitae,
Yes.
is my memory, to go all the way back there, so they will have, it'll be a green barrier versus a fence barrier, which is,
But there'll be visual screening between them and the neighbor.
but it'll be green, as I said, versus a fence.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that makes sense to me, and I think that's what design review was looking for, is something more along that line. If I could just make a comment about the fence between the projects, it's interesting to me that when the neighbors originally appeared here, they said they wanted to be good neighbors and work with the new people, the new building, and then now all of a sudden they then asked for a fence between the two projects. Quite frankly, I feel very strongly that this is not something the planning board should be dealing with, and if, as homeowners, on each side, the homeowners in each of these developments wishes to put up a fence at a later time, it's totally up to them. But I do feel strongly that we as a planning board should not be entertaining that particular item.
I agree.
I don't really like the concept of a fence separating, but I'm not necessarily going to criticize the homeowners that are there already, because I think they've had to deal with more than,
No, I understand.
Well, then
It's
most
not
people
our,
should have
it's
to
not
deal
our
with some of that,
responsibility to,
you know.
if they want to do that when the HOA goes to them, let them do
Right.
that, yeah.
Right, I mean, I think that's something they could apply for a permit for
Yeah.
themselves if, and
I
again,
don't think we should
depending on the
require
ownership
the
and so
applicant to
on.
do that.
I guess my question would be, again, that fence along the property line,
Yeah.
but I think, I'm okay with a bit, with green screening. You know, I'd be curious to, again, formalize that in a response as to how that screening is gonna look, and,
I think we got a planning
you
plan
know,
this
and
morning, didn't
since-
we, with the
Let me
arborvitae?
finish, Hazel?
Yeah.
I believe it's part of the
Since this is a
package.
public hearing, at some point, we may hear from the neighbors whether they would prefer a fence or not. I don't know, but for now, I'm satisfied with the screening that you're proposing. I don't think the separate entrance is physically feasible. I know there's a construction entrance, but that can't be a permanent driveway.
That's true. It's a circulation, like, issue sometimes when you have two curb cuts very close to each other. Then you have to ensure fire, like, right now there is a loop that goes through, so the fire apparatus can come and access the whole site. So all of that is working, and
Right. Okay. All right, so again, if you want to formalize those in a memo, that, I'm fine with that, but for now, I'm okay with those explanations. Any other questions? I think those comments, Jenny, do you have anything?
I don't have any additional comments.
Okay. It is a public hearing. Do we have anyone from the public that wishes to address the board on this? If you could just come up and state your name and address.
You have to turn that on.
Yeah, you may have to turn that mic on. I don't.
Prabhat Pradhan, 4 Danyan Drive. There is a calculation of 38 parking space, right? I sent an email, in that document, it is clearly mentioned 14 parking. Now, below somewhere, I didn't see that calculation like 30 plus 8, right? So there is a discrepancy when you approve that plan actually. Now you guys are agreeing, no, there is only 30 plus 8 parking. But we are telling, because when I bought the house, it was told there will be parking, like 6 parking out, like in front actually. Because you guys are allowing to build like so many houses, you are just taking space or benefit from us actually. So where is this 14 parking? Or we can just deduct that line? Because I don't understand the calculation. Because we are coming and discussing every day, but no action is taking. Still you are taking. You guys are asking proof. We are showing proof over there. 14 parking was written there. Now you will say, no, that sentence doesn't make any sense. Only like the 38 makes sense. Then how it will work actually?
Understand your point, okay? Can you review that paragraph for me that he's referencing? I think it said 14 visitor spaces were referenced in the original site plan. Is that visitor spaces, was that just for the residential, or was that visitor spaces for including commercial visitor spaces? I'm confused by that.
In looking at it, it appears that the decision says something different from what the site plan approved said. I don't know how that happened. I mean, typically, we would always defer to the site plan that was approved because that shows the actual physical parking. I don't know why the actual decision had a different number.
All this wouldn't be there if you wouldn't allow to build, residential houses over there. I know, like the planning bodies.
Say that again.
No, all these issues wouldn't become if we wouldn't allow to change from commercial to residential, because still there is a commercial unit, right? That's why we are lack of parking space and now we are struggling, right? We are reducing the green space also.
Are we reducing the green space, or?
we are adding 11,800 square feet of green space.
Where we are adding that one actually? Because behind there were a well, there were like, something to like farming or something. Those areas are gone. So if you make it green, those things, then how it will be green space, right?
All right, so again, how close are we to the open space limits on this? Do we have room to add more parking? For example, would it be possible to add parking in the back where that open green?
It was mentioned to like, distributed evenly. Otherwise, for me, consider, I have like 4 Dania Drive, right?
I asked a question,
Okay.
okay? I didn't ask you a question, I asked her a question.
Okay, sure.
So we can add more parking spaces, but physically there is a limitation. We all have to add new parking spaces into the central green area, which we can do. We have that space, we have that open space, but we do, the idea then is to not compromise on the green space in the central area, so maybe we can come back with a.
Yeah, what about that space in the back? I think that was originally intended for a garden.
That is a good space that we can add more parking there. Yes.
Right, but then they would lose,
They would lose the community garden area.
could you give me a concept as to how many spaces you?
Sure.
I don't want to fill that whole space, but could you give them back the 6 spaces back there and see how much green space they're left?
Yes.
There's not going to be anything left if the parking spaces back there.
I don't know, that's what I'm asking for a concept.
Yeah, I think at this point, what the residents have to think about is to balance the green space versus the parking spaces. So, obviously, if you want to take away most of the green space, you can add parking there, but then you're going to have no green space for the children. So, which would you prefer, since I realize the parking may be a problem, but the parking, as far as the visitor parking goes, is something that comes and goes. It's not a constant thing, because the residents themselves have sufficient parking. So it's, when you have visitors, it's not there all the time. So, you have to think about that aspect of it also.
So I'm asking for, or everyone is asking for parking in the front actually, not like taking out parking from the green space from behind. Because in this green space area, I don't think any children is going to play, because there will be cars coming out and going. So this parking space, this green area is not going to useful anything for the existing residents for sure. Because right now, my garage is over there. When I take out the car, I have to be careful because kids cannot stay there actually. So if you are thinking kids will be playing on that green area, you are so wrong. So again, same thing. Again, same thing. Like, because we are allowing so dense population over there, that's why all this parking and all these issues is there.
So if we take away green space in the front, then the kids in this apartment building won't have any green space.
Exactly.
So I also feel like if you add parking spaces up front, you have less of a control over those than you would if you added parking spaces in the back.
My guest will come, they will go park all the behind in winter, in Thanksgiving, and they will come to my house.
Right, but what I'm saying is if somebody in the apartment building has...
I would have bought my house behind actually. So all these things is not, the control we can do, we can put a board, signboard like say, okay, this is for residents of this one, like existing residents or residents one, and this will for this separation we can do, right? If you give some parking in front, we can separate those things.
let's do this.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Pete.
Are you representing the whole community or just you right now? Because
Whole community, because the people has lost,
to the whole community, because
yeah,
you just
and
said-
especially mine also.
Okay,
yeah,
no, because
yeah.
you said you don't want to have the parking in the back, but the people in the back of the community might like the parking in the back. But you're for, so you're in the front of the community, correct?
All right.
So it was written there, the parking will be.
Can we stop for a second?
Okay.
Can you provide us a couple of concepts for adding additional parking, either reducing the green space in the middle or adding additional parking in the back?
Yes.
That would be visitor parking. My feeling is that adding it in the back would actually give the 14 residences more control over that space, because it's going to be a separate HOA, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not to be insensitive, but why are we reducing the green space in the front? if the residents in the back already have the number of visitor parking that they were supposed to have per the approved plan, like, why are we making these accommodations
Right.
for them? It doesn't make sense. And now we're taking away green space from future residents.
So the approved plan has also mentioned 14 over there, right? So
Hold on.
That was to Mark.
Can I also ask
Yeah,
a
go ahead,
question?
John.
Is there any way to put parallel parking along Danya Drive? Take away green space between the site and the adjacent site, but if you have parallel parking that's kind of a cutout of the road, you'd be losing what, like 5-6 feet?
There is an existing walkway that the residents are using all along that edge. So the residents right at the back of the community walk all along that edge to get to the bus stop right in the front. So I can show it to you on a plan. So this over here.
I'm just confused, When I bought my house here in town, I have limited area to park in my driveway. But when I bought that, I knew that. And all the residents in the back knew what parking they were gonna get, but they had empty commercial buildings out front that they can park as many cars as they want. But it's not really their parking. They have the visitor parking in the back. I don't know why we're trying to make these accommodations.
Yeah, so two things. My argument would be, I guess, when you're envisioning a commercial building, right, you're thinking, okay, well, there may be a lot of cars there during the day, but if I have a party on a Friday night, I'll have some guest parking available. That's going to be reduced if there's residents.
It's not technically, they could be towed from that. It's not their parking.
Well, it's an HOA, so
If it got separated, it's,
It wasn't, I think to John's point, it wasn't designated as shared parking. It was designated as commercial parking.
right, that's true.
So in that HOA document also mentioned, fast come, fast serve, there will be 18 parking reserved for commercial, and after that, fast come, fast serve actually. So there was like shared parking actually. Plus, coming to who said that this parking belongs to only the commercial? But that was not what we knew when we bought the house. And as per the document also, that doesn't say that all parking belongs to commercial. This is only when the discussion started, the developer and you guys were just put a mindset on like that.
I think there's a difference between what your perception of this site was, whether it be through marketing that gave you the impression that you would have more control over the parking than you did, or, again, but I think that's something that's hard for us to control. John's right. There was a site plan filed and approved with specific parking spaces allocated for the residences, including dedicated driveways for each of your, and garages. So it's hard for me to say what your perception was. I mean, it appears that you thought that you were going to have more guest spaces than was actually approved on the original plan. Now, I'm willing to look at concept plans that might create some more guest spaces for you. I'm not.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I'm not sure the board will approve that.
So I agree. That's why I'm going with the written documents only. So the perception is done. Like whatever I was told when I bought those things is gone. I'm going with the HOA document where it is mentioned 18 parking be left and fast come, fast serve. And the other one is in that document, whatever Jenny provided last meeting. In that document, it is mentioned 14 guest parking actually.
So I'm confused. There's a master deed for the condo that's been filed, right?
That is one, but yeah.
The master deed, I'd have to look at that to see what that says about.
Yeah, let's talk about whatever Jenny provided. What document is that one actually?
The modification to the special permit from January 4th, 2022 mentions in the project summary that the site plan provides 14 visitor parking spaces, nearly one per residential unit.
Exactly.
But that's not what
No,
the plan
I understand that. I
reflects.
find it hard to believe that, that one paragraph is what you focused on back when you bought the unit. I feel like I would have looked at the master deed and said, what are my rights is,
I think one of the other issues is the residents keep on bringing up the HOA documents, but we don't control the HOA documents. We don't approve them. We don't know what's in them. So whatever you agreed to in the HOA is one thing, but that's not something we have control over. So if the HOA documents said you get certain things, and now you're coming to us and saying you need to enforce that, that's not something we have the authority or jurisdiction to do.
All right, let's concentrate on this document then.
Right, so that document says.
That document is not HOA document, that is, I think.
Hold on.
Yeah.
That document says that, but the approved site plan doesn't say that.
So whose mistake is that? It's not the buyer, right?
Doesn't matter who's mistake.
Can we pause on this? Because I feel like we're not going to come up with a solution this
Yeah,
very minute. Now, if nobody else on the board wants to look at concepts to add some additional visitor spaces, then I'll rescind my request. But I'm willing to look at a couple of concepts if you can create 6 more spaces somewhere that would be dedicated visitor spaces for the residences. And again, I don't know where that would go. I agree with John. I don't want to reduce the green space in the middle. I think that's an important component to create kind of a courtyard effect between the buildings. You know, I want the front entrance to the new building to face that courtyard, because that'll be the entrance that everybody's using. I really want 2 front entrances, because I want it to look nice from the street, too.
Mark, why don't I suggest that she can look and come up with a couple of alternative plans? I think, quite frankly, we've discussed this long enough. We
Yeah.
know what the story is.
That's what I suggested 10 minutes ago.
That-
So, yeah.
All right, so, but as I said, I do think we've discussed this enough, and we've given the applicant some direction, and I think that's it.
Okay, so we're going to have them look at options to add some visitor parking.
Yeah, no, we appreciate it, but also, ma'am, because we are in some trouble, that's why we are coming here. It's a public hearing, that's why we are coming here. You do close for hearing, we will not show up here. Because I have busy schedule, but I am taking time and coming. There were 15 people who were coming, they just lost hope probably. So we are also spending time to come over here. We appreciate your time. Please listen to us also. If we would be in trouble, why you would be coming here? See, because we have problem, that's why coming. Otherwise, I don't have any interest of going against the developer or you guys or anything. We request something, get our benefit.
We are listening to you. I think we've demonstrated that. I
Yeah, I
went back,
appreciate it.
found all your comments. I've asked them to prepare responses.
Sure.
Unless you have further comments on the project,
Yeah.
okay? I don't know.
So that's why I was thinking no, the second one is like the fence, the construction fence, because we were thinking there will be some parking over here for the visitors, like the existing visitors. If the fence can put like a little bit behind, that's why I was thinking to ask actually, but
Can you pull up the construction fence again so I can see how much parking is left open for them? That really does limit their parking.
right, yeah.
Is there a reason it has to be on that side of the green space?
Well, it's to protect, contain all the construction area, so we are removing some pavement from these areas. And then there is a construction entrance, so the trucks are coming in and entering the site here. So you want to allow enough space for the truck to turn and access the site.
Yeah.
I think one thing could be that these 4 spaces could be prioritized and created before the rest of the landscape work is done.
And so why is, I know the commercial building is built. Is there a reason you're enclosing that as well? Because those spaces in front of the commercial building could be useful while that building's empty at least?
Right.
And I'm presuming it's probably going to be empty during the entire construction period.
Sure. Yep, that can happen.
So, you understand that? Okay. All right, so if we move the construction fencing, so those spaces in front of the commercial building, I think there's
10
at
right
least
here,
10?
10 here, and, yeah.
Those would be still open and available.
Yeah, that's fine. Like, only thing is like, the construction people, they should not be parked like all the time. So something that can be worked, then I think should be fine
Okay.
for temporary. Yeah.
No, I agree. I mean, it severely limits your access to any of that parking.
Yeah, and I would suggest like, the parallel parking, I know it was approved plan, the parallel parking over there, the kids will work on that way to school actually, right? So we have to be careful, like, like you guys have to see like how much space between there, or should you put a fence or something? Otherwise, while parking, if someone goes up in the green area or walkway, that is just a request, like, guys look in that one.
There
Curb
will
there?
be a curb there, yeah.
Asphalt bituminous?
There will be a concrete curb.
Okay.
And this is visitors parking, not the others. So obviously, visitors parking is not used all the time, so that I think it's, as far as the danger goes, we have less in the fact that, they'll probably be used less time.
Yeah, I'm not sure we need any bollards or anything there to
Yeah, I
prevent
mean,
somebody from
6-inch
going.
high curb.
I think the curb is enough to keep people from,
yeah, like doesn't matter like it's used less or more, because when I came there, right, few people, drunken people, they drove once like and scolding like our family members, I'm telling. So once happen means it happens. It's not like they used like all the day or sometime. So kids will go there, right? So if there is a little risk, then it is a bad name for the town also. So we have to see it's whether all the time or it's less time. Safety is
again-
safety.
Again, there will be.
But yeah, those time is there, just a request, yeah.
Once the property is being lived in, you may have to reassess some of these as a homeowners association and say, yeah, we need a fence here, yeah, we need some safety signage there.
Yeah, but
I
you
mean,
guys are here, it will be easy for like,
I think we're-
find out.
I think I think the curbing is enough to prevent
Okay,
anything.
okay.
All right.
All right.
All right, it is a
Thank you,
public
yeah.
hearing. I want to give anyone else a chance that wishes to speak. Is there anyone else here that wishes to speak on this? Okay. I don't have any further comments. Are we ready to continue this? I guess my only other comment is on the 14th. I really hope to see everything on that list completed. All right. Somebody want to make a motion?
I move that we continue the public hearing to modify commercial component of special permit TOV 2014-1 for Village Commons at 1 Gleason Street until November 14.
Second.
All right, any questions, discussion? All those in favor? That's 5-0. All right. Anything else on the agenda?
All set, right?
All set, Farouk. We'll see you on the 14th.
We have minutes for September 19, 2023. Has everyone had a chance to look at those?
Yes.
If they have, could I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any other discussion?
No.
All in favor? Thank you, Kristen.
That's 5-0. All right. The only other thing that I see that we really need to discuss tonight, unless I'm mistaken, is the meeting schedule.
have just the fee schedule up for the planning
No,
board.
that's right. Yep, my mistake. You want to do that first?
So I know I've mentioned this a couple times, and so Kristen had put together a better fee schedule. It's a little cleaner than we had before, and just consolidated some items. And you can see here in red, those reflect what was approved through the building commissioner in the planning board site plan rules and regulations. It states that the building commissioner is responsible for setting the fees for those items. So he had those fees approved through town meeting, I believe in fall, if I'm not mistaken. So we are just looking to add those onto the fee schedule here. There's really no changes that need to be made. All of our other fees we reviewed. Kristen was able to assemble the fees from the other towns that are similar to us, and we're about even with the other towns. So we would like the planning board to approve this fee schedule.
Any questions?
You need a motion to approve that, or just,
Yes, please.
all right, I approve the proposed fee schedule? I don't know what else to say, there's no date on it, so.
You can use today's date.
How about, okay, dated October 17th, 2023.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That's 5-0. I guess the last thing we need to discuss is our calendar. I know we have meetings scheduled for November 14th and December 12th, but we need to look ahead to next year. Typically in December, we would post our expected, anticipated schedule for 2024, and we do have quite a few conflicts we have to work around. My feeling is that we ask Kristen to propose alternatives and then approve a schedule based on that, because I don't know my schedule that far in advance. And I don't really want to go through each of these dates tonight and say, well, what about this date? What about that date? So we have 2 more meetings to approve this. So my feeling is that if Kristen's okay with it, if she could propose alternatives to those dates where we have conflicts, it's at least 5 dates.
Well, actually, there's only 2 that have real conflicts. The ones that are crossed out are election days, but the other ones I just highlighted because those fall on a Tuesday after a Monday holiday, and I wasn't sure how the board felt about, there's not actually a conflict on the Tuesday, but it's of a holiday weekend, so I highlighted that, but it probably wouldn't.
We could probably leave those on the calendar and then make a decision as we get closer to those. So why don't we just look at the primary election. I believe March has, let me just check that, I could be wrong. So we would be looking at the 5th that we'd have to reschedule to 12th. Do the 12th and the 19th.
Back-to-back meetings.
Yeah, we can always decide to cancel it if,
Yeah, we legally cannot hold a public hearing on an election day also,
right.
so we'd have to move that.
So why don't we look at moving those back 1 week? So March 5th and November 5th, we go March 12th and November 12th. We'll post it at that, and then as we get closer, we can reassess whether we need to have 2 meetings that month, or whether we have other conflicts that come up during the year. All right. Somebody want to motion that we,
I move that we accept the planning board meeting dates
as
as
discussed.
discussed.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? All right, that's 5-0. All right, I think that's the whole agenda.
I have two
John,
things.
you have two things.
So I just wanted to mention that zoning thing for the M1. So I would like, Jenny, I would like to look into modifying the M1 district so that it doesn't have to go before town meeting to modify the zoning every time. It would just basically be the underlying zoning for setbacks, and then if the town wanted to modify those to accommodate any development, then they would go to town meeting to modify them. Otherwise, the underlying zoning setbacks would be controlling by right.
So currently, most municipal-owned lots are zoned M1.
And that's
So-
the underlying zoning?
No, it's
Is it an
It's
overlay or is it?
considered, it's actually zoned M1. It's not an underlying, it
So
is
there's
the
really no-
underlying zoning. It's
Yeah,
the
there's really
zoning.
no underlying zoning. It would-
So each time a project that's in an M1 zone wants to propose a building,
Right.
they have to go to the town meeting to set the dimensional
Right.
controls. I have never seen this in another town. It is very unique. Typically, any municipal-owned lots would have a separate dimensional controls. Typically, it's 0, so that municipal buildings can have more leeway, because usually when they're built, it's for public safety, et cetera. But we can certainly look at what other towns do and see if we can draft something similar.
Yeah, my concern is that these discussions at town meeting become not about the zoning and about the use, and these are all allowed uses. And then it essentially makes town meeting the special permit granting authority for a use that is allowed by right. So, yeah, if there's any way we can change the zoning in the M1 so that it allows the uses that are allowed by right to be done, I would be in favor of something like that.
Good idea.
Yeah, you could, you could set the M1 being 10 feet on every side.
Yeah, so
You could.
we could probably just do that, right?
Or if we want to, set it as a business district standard or a residential district standard or,
Yeah, so you can set separate dimensional standards for M1, then it would just apply to every parcel that's zoned M1. That's usually how towns do it, and then there's no town meeting that they have to go through.
Right. but
Site
let-
plan review would still apply, depending on the
let me
size
a-
of the
Let
project.
me ask a question, though, then, if the town needed to go outside of those setbacks, would they have to get a variance?
Yes.
That doesn't seem, I don't think that's unreasonable.
I think, when are we meeting for zoning review committee again? Is that the 20th?
Next week.
I think this is a great one to bring up,
Okay.
especially if we're trying to plan stuff for March town meeting. Right?
That will be a big one.
It's gonna be quite a few zoning.
Yeah.
I mean, why, but
it doesn't make sense. It makes these allowed uses
Yeah.
that the town has said are allowed become a special permit decision by
Right.
town meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think,
It doesn't make sense.
I think there's a lot of people in the town that want it that way, though.
I get that, but planning-wise, it just doesn't make sense.
Right, okay.
And then the other thing that I wanted to bring up is Sustainable Westborough posted their meeting dates for next year, and I am unable to make most of them because they moved from Wednesday to Monday. So we may need to appoint somebody else to that position because I'm not going to be able to attend these meetings. I have conflicts with my planning board meetings and my zoning advisory meetings on Mondays.
Okay,
So something to consider.
all right, can we ruminate on that for a little?
Yeah.
Okay, because
I told Pete I'd give everyone a heads up, so.
Yeah, I
wanted
can't
to-
take on another committee.
I'd be happy to take another committee in its place. I just can't do this one because the days are a conflict.
Makes sense. Well, it's
Wanna
only
trade
October, so
committees?
we've got time.
All right, let me think about that. That might be doable. All right, next, I think that's it. So if there's nothing else,
Move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
I heard Hazel second. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, have a great night, everyone.